pythonpodcast.net, the podcast about Python and the people who make it great. When you're ready to launch your next app or want to try a project you hear about on the show, you'll need somewhere to deploy it, so take a look at our friends over at Linode. With 200 gigabit private networking, scalable shared block storage, node balancers, and a 40 gigabit public network, all controlled by a brand new API, you've got everything you need to scale up. And for your tasks that need fast computation, such as training machine learning models and running your continuous integration, they just launched dedicated CPU instances. Go to pythonpodcast.com/Linode, that's Linode today to get a $20 credit and launch a new server in under a minute. And don't forget to thank them for their continued support of this show. And you listen to this show to learn and stay up to date with the ways that Python is being used, including the latest in machine learning and data analysis. For even more opportunities to meet, listen, and learn from your peers, you don't want to miss out on this year's conference season. We have partnered with organizations such as O'Reilly Media, Dataversity, Corinium Global Intelligence, and Data Council. Upcoming events include the O'Reilly AI Conference, the Strata Data Conference, the combined events of the Data Architecture Summit and Graph Forum, and Data Council in Barcelona. Go to pythonpodcast.com/conferences today to learn more about these and other events, and take advantage of our partner discounts when you register. Your host as usual is Tobias Macy, and today I'm interviewing Facundo Batista about his experiences founding and fostering the Argentinian Python community, working as a core developer, and his overall career in Python. So, Facundo, could you start by introducing yourself?
Hello, Tobias. Thanks for having me. Yes, I'm Facundo. I'm an electronic engineer. I started programming for fun when I was a kid, learning a lot of different languages, until when working as engineer, found Python and fell in love with it like 20 years ago or 18 years ago.
And do you remember how you first got introduced to Python?
I started to work in a telecommunications company where we had to process a lot of information server side. At that point, the language that I was most comfortable with was C, which I worked a lot in the university. But as you may know, processing text server side with C is not fun at all. So I started to find out what I could do. I found Perl and I did some developments with Perl, but I was like all day protesting because of ugly syntax and everything. So work companion told me, "Did you heard about Python?" No, I didn't. You should read this tutorial. So he gave me this tutorial for the official tutorial for Python. I think it was 2.2 or 2.1 at that time. And and then when I got the tutorial, my first impression was, this looks nice, but it's like too simple. I don't know if this will be powerful enough for the processing that we need to do. So my first task with it was doing a recursive analysis of the networks to try to find potential loops or something like that, which is kind of complex and a lot of processing, and Python worked just fine. So I said, oh, I really like this language.
So after you discovered Python and started using it, you have ended up helping to found the Python Argentina user group. And I'm wondering what your overall motivation was for getting involved with that and some of the story behind your founding of the group.
The moment I started working in Python, I started like doing a lot of things with Python, and a couple of work companion also used Python with me, but nobody else knew about Python, or none of my friends knew Python at that time. So I said, I cannot be the only person in Argentina who does Python. I mean, I knew about the international community and everything, but there should be something in Argentina. So I reflowed to an old Meetups. We had a meeting, 3 people in that original meeting, and we decided the 3 of us were working in Python, but at the same time we knew that somebody else should be working in Python. So we decided at some point to start a mailing list about it, probably a web page, and That is the origin of it. I mean, the needing of talk with somebody else that also used that technology that was great.
And I've actually heard a number of references to people coming from Argentina who are involved in Python in both the local community there as well as the international community. And I'm curious how large the Python Argentina user group has gotten to be over the years.
It's difficult to measure because we don't have a formal process for you to join in the community. And so it depends on which numbers do you take. For example, we have a mailing list, and in that mailing list there are 2,300 people. But we know that a lot of young people is not in the mailing list because they tend to not use mail. We created a Telegram group for Python Argentina a couple of years ago, and it's already more than 1,000 people. So it's difficult to know because we don't know how much of one group is in the other, and etc. The last PyCon Argentina we did, there were more than 1,000 people attending. So it's a large group.
And Argentina itself is a fairly large country, and the group that you have put together, it services the entirety of the nation. And I'm wondering how the overall geography and culture of your country influences the focus of the community and any of the challenges that you face in terms of trying to facilitate interaction for such a widely distributed group of people.
It's a problem because it's not only that our country is large, as I tend to say to people visiting the country, I always say when they come to Buenos Aires, I say to them that if you want to go to the south, you have to travel 2,000 kilometers, and if you have to go to the north, you have to travel another 2,000 kilometers. It's a large country, but the problem is deeper than that. The Argentina is very centralistic. I don't know if that's an English word actually. They Everything tends to happen in Buenos Aires, with the exception of a couple of other big cities like Cordoba or Rosario or Mendoza. Most of the technology happens in Buenos Aires. So when we founded Python, we wanted to found the Python group, but at the same time we didn't want to found just Buenos Aires because we knew that we will be excluding a lot of people. So from the very beginning, when we decided that we will be addressing the whole Argentina, we decided to call the group Python Argentina. At the same time, we started purely virtually at the beginning, so that part was easy because the mailing list you can join anywhere. But the meetings, of course, were local, so there were a lot of meetings in Buenos Aires. When we started to new people from other provinces or cities, we started to encourage them, do meetings in your cities, talk with people locally. We all work in Python, but we have different problems, or even with the same problems. For example, quantity of companies working with Python or job offers, etc. Maybe with the same problem, the solutions are different. So let's have this group addressing the whole Argentina, but let's not be Buenos Aires centric and try to make it as federal as possible.
And from your experience overall of being a technologist and living and working in Buenos Aires and interacting with people in the broader community that you work with, what has been your sense as far as the level of popularity of Python as compared to other languages or technologies that are being used in Argentina?
I think that in that regard, Argentina is not different from other countries or areas. We have a lot of people working in other languages like commercial languages with a good basis in universities like Java or PHP or C++. And at the same time, we had like a lot of languages that are not widely used, but they have a good community here, especially in universities like Lisp or Haskell. But again, in the same, similar with what happened in a lot of other places, Python has a steady growing, but not really quite growing a lot until 10 or 7 years ago, which at some point a lot of people started to use Python. Like 5 years ago or something, like literally exploded with the quantity of people trying to learn Python from the science world. So I don't have a particularly specific data for Argentina and other countries, but what I've heard and in my experience is similar to what happened in US or Europe.
And what are some of the ways that you facilitate the growth and interaction of the community and some of the types of resources and events that you help to provide?
We try to make our focus is pretty much in the community. I mean, we do Python. We are a group of people doing Python. So our focus is to make people talk together and get together around Python, from the mailing list or the Telegram groups where we provide assistance so anybody can learn Python or find answers for their problems around Python, to meetings, which we have several kinds of meetings or events. Always the idea is to make people get together around the language. One of the basics rules that we have for our events in Python Argentina is that we want the events to be free. We don't want to charge you for you to be able to talk with Python with somebody else. So the PyCon Argentina, for example, was always free, which is kind of unusual in what the rest of the world happens.
Yeah, that's definitely much different than typical technology conferences that I've had experience with. And I know that in general, conference organization and management can be both time consuming and expensive. So I'm wondering how you've approached that in order to be able to provide it as a free resource for people.
Well, we had sponsors. I mean, companies sponsor the events, so we get that money and pay for the expenses. We are somehow limited in the sense that, for example, we don't provide you for with lunches or t-shirts for everybody or this kind of generic stuff that you have when you go to a paid event, because I mean you're not paying for anything, so we cannot l- give you lunch, but you can access our focus is for you to be able to access the information. The information should be free if you have money or not. So that's our focus.
And in addition to PyCon Argentina, you have also started working on this PyCamp event. And I'm wondering if you can describe a bit about what that is and how that got started.
Well, PyCamp for me is one of the events that I most like for every year in Argentina. It's a small event. I mean, this is not for wide assistance. We get together every year like 40 or 50 people in a place that provides the basics for us to survive, like electricity, internet, bathrooms, food, and that kind of stuff. And we spend 4 days coding and hacking and playing board games and doing fun activities like learning how to fight with swords and that kind of stuff. It's a very nice event where you just go to do Python, Python, Python for 4 days. It's very nice. It's very nice. We have a lot of good pictures about that. I enjoy it a lot. We have to reproduce this in other countries for people to get fun.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a lot of fun. And I'm curious if the sword fighting expertise came from within the group or if that's something that you brought somebody in from the outside for.
No, it's somebody in the group that is specialistic in that. So he every PyCamp he carries some swords, teaches a little. But we normally do also sports like playing football or basketball or archery, or for example the last PyCamp we had a talk from a specialist about astronomy. We were in the mountains in a really dark place, so he talked about stars to us for an hour, and it was very good.
Yeah, I'll definitely add links to pictures for that for anybody who wants to take a look. And I'll definitely advocate for anybody else to replicate that because it sounds like a good time and something that would be worthwhile to help grow some community engagement and just be an excuse to get out and do something different.
Yes, exactly.
So, in terms of the overall community, I'm wondering what have been some of the main points of focus in terms of just general themes of events and talks, and some of the notable projects that have been built by or for members of PyCon Argentina.
But yes, well, the focus is mostly the people, like making everybody together to talk about Python, but with some specifics like information should be free to anybody, as I said before. But also in diversity, we were heavily focused on diversity since I don't know 10 years ago, similar to what the PSF was doing also 10 years ago, before diversity was really in the agenda for everybody. We were like pioneers with PSF around that. So it's mostly the people, but at some times, as a group, we want to attack some different projects. For example, one of the longest in time that we had, and that is I'm most proud of, is the CDpedia. The CDpedia is a project where we package the whole Wikipedia in a CD. I mean, original was a CD. Then we started the DVD version, so you have the or and then we also started to generate a pen drive version. But the idea is always the same. You go with a CD or a DVD or a pen drive with a computer with no internet at all, and you have the whole Wikipedia content. Of course, we are addressing the Spanish part of the Wikipedia, even as we have the idea to make it multi-language at some point, but the idea is for you to go to with a CD or DVD, for example, to a school in a that is distant from any city, and you have computers but you don't have internet, which is quite common in Argentina because we have so many rural areas. So the idea is that you have a computer, you don't have internet, but having the CDpedia, you can get all the information from Wikipedia, which is very good project. It's there since like 13 years or something.
That definitely is great to be able to provide that information access. And I'm curious, what are some of the challenges and strategies that you're faced with to make it possible to have all of that information available offline and internally linked so that it doesn't require any outbound network access and any potential applications that could be made from that project to things like maybe packaging up sections of the Internet Archive for similar purposes?
I think that it's very difficult to make it generic because the processing of the Wikipedia pages are so specific for Wikipedia pages because the need of compress them at the maximum. So it's very difficult to make it generic. The challenge around the projects are mostly about the compression for pages and images on one side, but also the index is very difficult to achieve. They remember that we originally aimed to make a CD, so CDs are slow. So if you, the moment you want to find for something and open that specific page, you cannot really be, I don't know, reading 100 megabyte to uncompress something in memory, but you should have small blocks access. You should have access in small blocks. Other big challenge is how do you determine which pages will you include and which images from those pages will you include in the CDpedia? Because if you make it fit for a CD, you have 600 megabytes, but if you aim for a DVD, you have like almost 5 gigabytes, and at the same time we have a version for with all images and all pages for that is aimed to pen drives. That is around 13 gigabytes the last time we compiled it. But the process of selecting with pages is quite difficult. But that's only the technical challenge of a project like this, because you have also the social challenge. The moment you have a CD or the moment you have a DVD with the whole Wikipedia there, how do you distribute it? Because it's not something you can, well, we have it for download, but if you are in the problem that you don't have good internet in the school, how do you originally download it? So we have a success regarding that Jimmy Wales, which is the founder of Wikipedia, as a gift to a person, no, sorry, it was the way around. A person that has this company working with the education ministry in Argentina made as a gift for Jimmy Wales the possibility to distribute the CDpedia in all Argentina. So we had the disc in all schools in Argentina, I think around 2011 or something, which was a very good thing.
Another aspect of the project, too, is that because Wikipedia is a continually evolving body of information, there's the issue of staleness of information where some pages, for instance, are going to be unmodified because they're historical records that don't necessarily have a lot of flux, but for any sort of scientific information that might have been updated since the last time the information was compiled, there's the challenge of being able to redistribute those updates. And I'm curious if you have any thoughts on that problem or any ways of maybe sending incremental updates for people who already have an existing copy, or because of the fact that it's entirely self-referential, if that's even viable.
We analyzed that a couple of times. It was very difficult to produce incrementals because at some point we did some stats at some point, and it was like almost there are so many changes, and as a lot of pages are referenced by a lot of other pages, you have like you needed like seven. I think the number was around 65% of the pages needed to modify. So at that point, you just get a new snapshot and deliver a new snapshot, and incremental it was not worth it. The problem was, yes, the problem of pages going stale is a problem of all snapshots. The moment you get a snapshot, you are doomed with that. But there is a similar challenge around that what you can do to prevent or mostly avoid people doing bad things to the Wikipedia pages and you distributing them as truth. I prefer to have this page about, I don't know, this scientific thing that is 2 months old, but it's true. That something that is 2 days old but it's a lie or it's a hack about something. Or so we have a lot of algorithms about when we decide to include the page in the snapshot, which version of that page we choose. We in a lot of situations we don't choose the latest page, so it's complicated.
Yeah, it's definitely a complex challenge. And as you said, it's not just the technical, it's also the social aspects of it. And because of the fact that a lot of the people who are using it don't have internet access, it's not necessarily viable to just ship those increments over the internet. You would have to have another physical medium of sending it along and then have a way of merging the information on a hard drive or something like that. So, well,
Right.
best of luck in that overall effort. And then beyond your involvement in Python Argentina and working on projects such as CDpedia, you have also been working as a core developer for CPython, and I'm wondering how you got started on that path and what specific areas of the language and runtime you've been most involved with and most focused on.
I have this problem around 2002 where I started a personal project for managing my own money, my own finances. And quickly I found out that float as a data type was not a good fit for handling money. So trying to see how you can handle money in Python, I found out that there was this idea of creating a decimal data type, which is the best fit for handle money. But the data type was not really there. So in my original mails, Guido Van Rossum suggested that the decimal data type is what I needed, and I decided to make it happen. There was some code around there, and there is this spec from IBM which is specify exactly how the decimal data type worked. So I started to work in the decimal module. I received a lot of help from people that knew a lot about numbers and algorithms, like Tim Peters or Eric Snow, or well, there was a lot of people involved, but my main success there was to start and finish a very complicated PEP that was is the decimal module, and then implementing the module. At that point, I become a core developer because I was committing a lot of code and committing a lot of tests. Well, basically working in the decimal module. Beyond the decimal module itself, I like to participate in Python bug days a lot, and I started to create small events in Argentina for people to grab bugs of CPython and work on them. And I normally tend to work on stuff like that in PyCon sprints and everything. But I even as I'm a core developer, I really don't spend a lot of time with the source code. I the last 15 years or something, or mostly the last 10 years, I was heavily focused in the community part of Python and not so much of the code. I tend to do a commit every several months because of helping somebody with patches or bugs they address, but it's most an effort of creating a community of people helping with the code and helping with the code myself. For example, I participated in several Google Summer of Codes for people who wanted to do coding in CPython and that kind of stuff.
And I'm curious what it is about the Python language and community that has caused you to spend so much of your time and attention on it, as opposed to other endeavors that you might that you might spend your time on, or other languages that you might be using professionally or personally.
On one side, the Python language itself is something very nice and fun to work with. It's something which works good enough in most of the context that I use the language, or in my particular case, in all the context I use a programming language. So I really don't have the needing of using other languages for when I do projects in my free time for fun or learning technologies. I do Python because I like it. And then I finished working as a Python software engineer in a couple of companies. I'm working in Canonical since more than 10 years ago doing Python. So I use Python everywhere. On the other hand, the community is one of the healthiest communities that I found in the software world. There was always this good attitude of people around the language. People, the community was always very welcoming, always very respectful, and it's a good place to be, for people to encourage to be. It happened to me a lot that getting people from other languages into Python in Argentina, one of the aspects was that I really like this, I don't know, mailing list, because I can make a silly question and nobody will hit me in the head with something. Or specifically speaking about diversity, there is a lot of non-male, white, good socioeconomic position people that is really happy with the community, and this I think this represents a status of the Python community around the globe that is very good. It's very good, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know if an anomaly, but it's not usual that uh, communities are so well behaved.
Yeah, it's definitely remarkable the amount of effort that has been put in by members of the community globally to help foster that overall sense of welcome to new people of all skill levels, and just the fact that it has been able to be maintained and sustainable as the community has grown beyond its original roots is pretty remarkable. And I think the fact that there is an organization in the form of the PSF at the core of it to help drive a lot of those efforts and set standards for the community has helped to allow it to scale to that to the point that it has.
Yes, probably, and it's for example, the PSF always made a focus about the diversity, and for example, we every year in these PyCamps we do this. The PyCamp is the only event in Argentina that's not free, because I mean you have to pay for the hotel and everything. But we normally give money to people to be able to attend, and we do a focus on diversity there with PSF sponsorship for specifically for that, which makes the community more diverse. And at some point, that will be it's a positive circle that making the community more diversity will attract more diversity itself, and at some point we can start being equals in the community.
And as a user of the Python language and a committer to the runtime for such a long period, I'm sure that there are aspects of the language that you've run into that you would like to see improved or modified. And I'm wondering if there's anything notable that you would like to see addressed in the near to medium future.
I think that the one of the aspects, in general sense, I am very happy with the language. It, for example, a lot of people say it's slow in some situations, but I not really. That's not really a problem for me. What I would really want to see improved in the midterm is the start time for the Python process. The time that is dead between you type Python 3 in the terminal and the script really starts executing. That time, I think that really hurts a lot of different areas where Python could be more widely spread. And it's the problem is that you cannot really execute a zillion pythons in a millisecond. I'm exaggerating, but that's the idea.
And outside of your work on Python Argentina and the CPython runtime and some of the other open source projects that you've mentioned, what are some of the other areas that you spend your time and projects that you're most proud of?
I really use a lot of time of my life to make my kids happy, make them grow and be with them and enjoy them while they are growing. They are still small, but time goes by so fast. Um, I do tennis. I love tennis playing. I don't know. I really a lot of my free time I put it in computers and software projects and community. One of the projects, yes, one of the projects that I spend a lot of time is one called Fades. That is a automatic virtual env wrapper for your projects. It's more than a virtual env wrapper in the sense that you really don't know that you are using a virtual env. In your project or in your terminal, you only specify the dependencies. The process or your interactive interpreter or whatever executes inside the virtual env, but you don't really need to know that the virtual env is under there or how to create it or how to activate it or anything, which makes it very, very good for people starting in Python because they don't need to install dependencies or anything. They just, if they use fades, they just specify the dependencies that they want and the script will run in a virtual env with only those dependencies automatically.
And how would you characterize the overall influence that your involvement as a core developer and with the Python Argentina group and just the overall influence that that has had on your life and career?
I don't know if the being a core developer itself influenced a lot of what I do in Python Argentina. What really affects what I do in Python Argentina was in that sense being part of the Python Software Foundation, being part of the group of people involved in making the language better, and then translating a lot of those attitudes and good things to have from overall PSF to Argentina specifically. Regarding my career, well, I'm an electronic engineer. I started working in a telecommunications company 20 years ago and working as an engineer. But then when I started being more and more involved with Python, I was head of developers in a phone company in around 2006. Then went back to work as an electronic engineer in also another telecommunication company, and then jumped to Canonical and been doing Python there almost 11 years now. So it heavily influenced my career because I really work as a developer, even if I didn't study that in the university.
Well, for anybody who wants to get in touch with you or follow along with the work that you're doing, I'll have you add your preferred contact information to the show notes. And so with that, I'll move us into the picks. And this week, I'm going to choose a book that I picked up from the library recently that's been a lot of fun called The Dictionary of Difficult Words. And it's just a bunch of different words that you wouldn't typically use in everyday language that are interesting to say or hear. And they've got useful and complex definitions. So it's just great to explore language in a fun and entertaining way. And there are a lot of funny illustrations to accompany the words. So it's great to sit down and look through it with your kids. So I've been having fun with that. And with that, I'll pass it to you, Facundo. Do you have any picks this week?
Well, I will encourage anybody working with virtual envs to take a look at Faiths and start. It's like at the beginning you don't really see the value of it. I mean, you say, oh, another wrapper, but you already using one. What is the benefit for it? But the moment you start really using it, you will not stop using it. It's very helpful in the everyday Python usage.
All right, I'll have to take a look at that. Well, thank you very much for taking the time today to join me and discuss your experience working with Python and helping to contribute to the growth of the community. I appreciate all your efforts on that front, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to check out our other show, the Data Engineering Podcast, at dataengineeringpodcast.com for the latest on modern data management. And visit the site at pythonpodcast.com to subscribe to the show, sign up for the mailing list, and read the show notes. And if you've learned something or tried out a project from the show, then tell us about it. Email hosts@podcastinit.com with your story. To help other people find the show, please leave a review on iTunes and tell your friends and coworkers.